Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I was born into a Muslim family, linked by heredity to the Prophet Muhammad, may peace be upon him and his family.
How well did you know your grandfather at that time when you were a boy? He played an important part in your young life.
Yes, he did. He probably had one of the most widespread and inquiring intellects of any person I've ever met. He asked an enormous number of questions on an enormous number of subjects. And in that sense, this sort of intellectual stimulus which he provoked and which he was the center of was very, very exciting indeed.
My education blended Islamic and Western traditions in my early years and at Harvard, where I majored in Islamic history. And in 1957 I was a junior when I became the 49th hereditary Imam of the Shia Imami Ismaili Muslims, when my grandfather designated me to succeed him.
The ceremony is a public installation of the Imam. The Ismailis pay homage to the Imam, and that is when you are recognized by the world at large as the Imam. Only the faith of your father can sustain you and enable you to live in peace here in this world and in the next.
In 1957, much of Asia was considered hopelessly condemned to poverty, to food insufficiency, and political instability. Some countries had just been granted independence. Others were fighting for independence, and many others were still locked in colonial status. It would have been optimistic in 1957, perhaps even adventurous, to expect that many developing countries of Africa and Asia could one day become countries of opportunity for our world's people, including the Jamat. But this is precisely the objective that I have been pursuing. In 1967, I established a foundation by the name of my family in Geneva to build further on the structure of welfare services which my late grandfather had founded,
and to help resolve social development problems such as the support of impoverished rural populations.
The story goes back to 1972, when the then president of Uganda, Marshal Idi Amin, expelled all the Asians from Uganda, no matter what their faith, their citizenship, or position in society. There was unanimity that wherever we would settle, we would never become a demotivated, marginalized minority, and that we would instead demonstrate the will and the capacity to rebuild our future. These new buildings, which we decided to call Ismaili Centers, had to reflect our aspirations for the future, rather than the tragedy of our recent past. We saw them as structures where we could receive other communities and institutions in a dignified manner, and where we could demystify our faith, which was sometimes badly misunderstood. They would be symbols of new hope, replacing past pain.
Very close to midday, exactly 24 years ago, the 48th Imam passed away. It is his understanding of Islam, his wisdom, his hopes for his Jamat, that for years have been the signposts in my daily work. I have drawn inspiration from him as he did from the Imam before him. It is the rope that carries the light that flows.
सलाम आले मोहम्मद का दर मिला है ताज खुश नसीब है आले मोहम्मद का दर मिला है ताज खुश नसीब है उन पर पढ़े वो दुरूद और सलाम अल्लाह
Today is a day of special happiness for me, as this is not only my first visit to Badakhshan, it is also the first time in many centuries that the Imam of the time of the Ismaili Muslims has had the opportunity to see and to be in the presence of members of the Ismaili Jamat in Badakhshan.
خوش آمدی یعقوب وار چشم جهان بود و انتظار یوسف صفت ز مصر و بکنعان خوش آمدی.
Today, this morning early, I met with the members of the Leaders International Forum and I signed a new edition of the Constitution for the Jamat, which brings it up to keeping up to time for the time of today and the future, and which makes a number of adjustments to new institutions, new programs, new presences of structured Jamats throughout the world. And therefore, the Constitution of the 11th of July, 1998, ordained in Lisbon at the Ismaili Center, is the Constitution which henceforth is in force for the Jamat worldwide. In our excavations and historical investigations, I constantly have been reminded that we were touching the very foundations of my ancestors, the Fatimids, and the pluralistic history and intellectual profile of this city and this country, to which they contributed so profoundly. This is extraordinary. You know, it's much more dramatic than anybody could describe in writing. You actually have to see this. 35 generations later, through the work done here by my institutions, it is my prayer that this park will be a continuing contribution to the people of this great city. The Holy Quran commands humankind to shape our earthly environment as good stewards of the divine creation. In that spirit, in moments both of elation and disappointment, we hope that the Akhan Award for Architecture will always point towards an architecture of optimism and harmony, a powerful force in elevating the quality of human life. I hope that the Golden Jubilee will enable these institutions and activities to strengthen and consolidate themselves, thereby assisting the shift of numerous countries to move to become countries of opportunity. Among the most important accomplishments of this period is the fact that the great geographic and linguistic diversity of the Jamat is now known and understood and valued. All the Jamats worldwide, except for a small minority, are now in direct contact with the Imam and Imamat institutions. The Imamat and the Jamat worldwide, through their constitutional bodies, are able to serve the Jamat in a well-organized context. And it must be an additional source of pride to the Jamat that in more and more countries, the constitutional bodies which serve the Jamat are also being called upon to serve others. Today, I place my hand on the shoulder of every murid around the world to convey to each one of you, individually, my warmest and my most affectionate eternal, eternal loving blessings. Darbar is an occasion of happiness. And sometimes the Jamat in the past months has said to me, Hazrat Imam, why do you make these jokes? And I said, well, why shouldn't I make jokes? Darbar is a moment of happiness. And I remind them that in Islam, happiness is a blessing. It is a blessing from Allah. And therefore, if you have smiles and you have happy children and you have friends and you enjoy the qualities of life, this is also a reason to be thankful for the blessing from Allah. That the love of the Imam knows no physical boundaries. No mountain, no river, no desert can stop the love of the Imam for his Jamat worldwide. Any leader of any global community hopes and prays for one thing: peace. Peace in every community, in every country of the world. I am fortunate to lead an international community with a strong social conscience, bridging north and south, east and west. The Ismailis have a long tradition of philanthropy, self-reliance, and voluntary service. Wherever they live, they faithfully abide by the Quranic ethic of a common humanity and a dignity of man. They willingly pool knowledge and resources with all those who share our social ethic to help improve the quality of life of less fortunate men, women, and children. We have also, in these recent decades, established 2 new institutions of higher learning here: the Institute of Ismaili Studies and the Institute for the Study of Muslim Civilizations, which is part of the Khan University. They both offer master's level teaching programs, they engage in research and publication, and they also develop curriculum materials for children in primary and secondary schools. In all these efforts, they take a holistic, civilizational approach to Islamic studies, rather than emphasizing the more narrow domain of theological dialectic. What some describe as a clash of civilizations in our modern world is, in my view, a clash of ignorances. This is why education about religion and cultural heritage is so critically important, and why we will continue to invest in these institutions. We deeply believe that scholarship, publication, and instruction of high quality and generous breadth can provide important pathways toward a more pluralistic and peaceful world.
شبش چون شب هجران دراز است دگر خوابم نمیگیرد که تا روز همه شب چشمم از اندیشه باز است.
And as you can tell, I'm a little emotional. But then who isn't when you reach the revered age of 80? I reflect where the Jamat has come from and where it is today and where it is going in the decades ahead. And I think we can conclude that today the Jamat is a strong community. It is a global community. It is a community with strong institutions, with strong ethics, and is respected around the world. What more could I wish for as the Imam of the time? You could not give me a greater gift than the ability, than the right to say the things that I have just said. My wish for the decades ahead is that you stand firmly by the principles and the ethics of our faith. Wherever you are, whatever age you are, whatever you do in your lives, it is essentially important to me that the principles of our faith should be respected every day of your lives. This is my hope and this is my prayer.
أشرق النور المواب وأضاء بالكون يجرى ما له فيه احتجاب.
Like earlier Jubilees, the Diamond Jubilee is an opportunity to focus on goals for the improvement of the quality of life of my murids around the world and the societies amongst which they live. I'm convinced that it is only the faith of your forefathers that will enable you to face life's challenges, especially in times of crisis and rapid change. I say how much you are constantly in my heart, in my thoughts, and in my prayers. And I place my hand on the shoulder of each and every murid around the world, wherever you are, in any corner of the world, to convey to each one of you individually my warmest and my most affectionate paternal, maternal, loving blessings. I pray that you may be protected from all worldly problems and any difficulties you may be facing personally or in your families, and for your mushkil asan. I pray for the strength of the faith of every murid, and that you may remain on Sirat al-Mustaqim. I pray that you may have peace, good health, and unity in your families. I pray for the eternal peace and rest of the souls of all of my Ruhani spiritual children. And I pray that you may live with spiritual enlightenment to guide you in your daily lives.
Allah ki inayat hai, shukr hai Mawla. Silsila-e imamat hai, zikr hai Mawla. Guide us through the light and dark. Show us the path, Mawla. Show us the path, Mawla. Barakati beshumar, dil shod Jamat.
This morning, I signed an instrument designating the seat of the Ismaili Imamat here in Lisbon, which I have decided to name as the Diwan of the Ismaili Imamat. This historic step to further strengthen the capacities of the Imamat's institutions to better serve the Jamat's needs. I express my gratitude to the government and people of Portugal for inviting me to establish this seat here. The establishment of this seat provides that the Imamat and the government will continue to work together to enhance the understanding among Muslims and non-Muslims and contribute to peace and stability around the world. We now have, alhamdulillah, Portugal as our partner. I'm very happy to have my family present here, including my children and grandchildren. I thank them for their support and the contribution they have made over the years to the work of the Imamat and its various institutions. This has been a source of great happiness for me. Today, the Ismailis are the only Shia community who, throughout history, have been led by a living hereditary Imam in direct descent from the Prophet.
The next Imam cannot be appointed during your lifetime.
He is appointed during my lifetime in the sense that I'm the person who knows who the next Imam would be.
But only
he only me. But he becomes Imam when I die.
Officially, as soon as one Imam passes away, his successor takes on from the very minute that the Imam has passed away.
Keep in mind, please keep in mind, that the Imam is always with you. There isn't a second in the day or the night when the Imam is not with you. He is always with you. I am ambitious for you, but ambitious for you in the right way. Just as a father and mother is ambitious for his children, he wants them to work well, properly, ethically. These are the thoughts that I share with you. And although I will be leaving you physically today, I'm always with you. I watch over you, I think over you, I pray for you, and I want you to know that I'm always with my Jamat. I have had nothing else of real significance in my life other than serving the Jamat. Kamala, Kamala.
واعتصموا بحبل الله جميعا ولا تفرقوا واذكروا نعمة الله عليكم إذ كنتم أعداء فألف بين قلوبكم فأصبحتم بنعمته